Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stoss. Profits are falling, salaries need to be cut, positions need to be cut, there needs to be a reorganization. Some of our best talent is leaving. These are tough conversations that we need to have. But they're real. They're real in our organizations every day, and we as leaders and managers need to be the ones to communicate that to our team. But what do? We can't not communicate. So it's how we communicate and how effectively we communicate that's important. That is integral to the success of not only us as a manager or a leader, but the organization as a whole. We need to be thinking about how we share those messages and how we can communicate to make them effective. So the past few weeks we've been talking about having difficult conversations, and this is really today about those difficult conversations on an organizational level that us as managers and leaders need to have with our people. So how do we start? What are those first things that we need to do? Well, first, we really have to think about the timing and the place of having this conversation. When we have news like this, it's always very critical that we have a great communication plan, and many of us have communication experts to help us with that. But if not, we really just have to think about where's the best time and place. Sometimes we want to hold off on our timing because we want to make sure everybody can be there, but realistically, we know that that's not possible. And sometimes we just use that as a delay for our own self of not wanting to share the news. So the best thing is to go ahead and schedule that conversation. Get everybody on the phone, set up a call-in number, make sure that if people aren't there in person, many of us have virtual teams, I might have people on vacation, set that call-up number and have the rest of the team face-to-face and have that conversation. So first you have to think about who you are and how you show up. You need to be yourself, be honest, be transparent, and be credible. The information that you share is going to be very, very important because it's going to be heard by many people, and then it's going to be interpreted by many people. So first, think about your credibility and what that means to you. Second, think about your audience and what that message is to your audience. You may have different types of audiences that you need to communicate to. If you're a leader and have multiple managers who have employees who work with them, make sure you talk about that messaging. Your message to them may be different, a little bit slightly different than the message to the ranks below them. So it's really important to have critical key talking points so that you can share those with them, talk about what we need to know as managers and leaders, and talk about how to share that message. But it's critical that you have that conversation because first, if we're the leader of the team, we're the leader of the organization, we need to be sharing that message because how we do it with our teams will indicate how the rest of the organization will be completed as well. If we don't lead in a good way there, it's not going to continue down as effectively. So when we think about the next step, then we have to think about that timing of that message and being prepared. This is critical, and we need to know our key talking points when we show up in the room. When we show up in the room, we can't be shooting from the hip. We have to be sure of what we're saying. Most of the time when we're prepared, we're more confident. And when our teams know that we're confident and they know we're going through tough stuff, if they can see us as leaders be confident and show up and know that we have some tough stuff to deal with, but if you've thought it through and have great messaging for them, they're going to be more confident in following you. So as you share that message, think about your messaging, but then think about them and know that just expect that there's going to be disappointment. Expect that there's going to be some pain. Give them some time during that meeting. Sometimes we share that message and then we want to stop, shut the door, and leave. I think it's great to allow a little bit of time at the end. Sometimes when it's really tough news, if we've lost a big account or somebody leaving our team that is totally unexpected, those kinds of things where there might be some close emotion to them because they might be losing a part of them, losing somebody they're working with closely. We need to give them a few minutes at that end of that conversation. Be empathetic. Even though some of us aren't naturally empathetic, just know that they need a little bit of time, maybe to ask questions. There's going to be maybe a shock factor. So we have to be prepared to have that conversation with them, giving them a little time to just be open and express that. So sometimes if you're an authentic leader that likes to be open, sharing your feelings, that, hey, I'm disappointed too, and I wish there was something I could have done, or whatever your way, I think it's critical for them to know that you're human also. But just expect that there needs to be a little bit of disappointment and some of that time. But don't let it turn into a big sob festival and go on and on. The next critical piece then is really when you leave that meeting, making sure that telling people to get to take their action. Let's continue in our work, do what we can every day to keeping our heads up, focusing on our goals, focusing on the vision of the organization and where we're heading. I think they need to know that your expectation is still action-oriented and to continue their roles as they are today. And that way we can keep them moving forward and keeping them focused. The final piece is repeat, repeat, repeat. Even though we've maybe shared this message, we need to loop around. I always tell leaders when we have that message scheduled today, clear tomorrow's calendar. If you're back-to-back in meetings, which many of us are and very busy, especially when you're going through critical things like this, you need to clear some time. Clear some time to loop back with each of your team members one-on-one. Everybody responds to these types of messages differently, so you need to have conversations with each one of them. Do a drive-by, do a stop-by with everyone. Pick up the phone and call your individuals, maybe who are virtual, and have those conversations to see how they're doing, because that's really critical to stay connected to them. So clear some time in your calendar just for the people part of it to make sure people are emotionally feeling connected. So these messages are really, really critical. We have them in our businesses over time. I'm sure all of you are thinking about one of those times when you've had to share a message with your team and thinking about, gosh, how did I approach that? So for Positive Charge this week, I want you to think about maybe in the past, one of those that you did have, what worked and what didn't work. And maybe just jot down some notes for your plan of action in the future. Hopefully right now you don't have any of those messages to share, but I'd like you to just reflect on, when you do, what are a couple key points that you've heard today that you'll take into consideration in the future on that next message that you have. So as leaders, this is really a part of our job, even though it's not a favorite part of our job. It is critical to the success of our organization. When we think about morale and productivity and building a great team, these are the things that matter. And when you think about an organization, many organizations want to be learning organizations and growing organizations. And as an organization, you have to step back and really think about these things are going to happen, one way or the other, right? We might lose accounts, people, those kinds of things, and have a few hard years here and there. When we have these times, the more we learn from having these discussions, the better we can be the next time. And our employees will know and feel confident that when these things happen, that we handle them correctly. And they feel okay about them. They feel comfortable and they feel it's a safe place to be. And that's what's most important as an organization, to think about how do we handle this and how do we move forward and make people feel comfortable and make them want to be a part of this. So as these things happen in the future, we can work and grow together. Thank you for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.